Hello, I'm George Cairns, and in this video lesson I'm going to show you how to use the Vanishing Point filter to clone in perspective so you can extend things into the distance and produce creative results like this. Now, to Photoshop, a photograph is flat even though we see depth and perspective. So when you use the clone stamp tool, you can alt-click to sample a detail such as the foot, and if you move it to the side there, it's going to clone it and it's going to be the appropriate size. But if you clone this bit of step here and try and place it into the distance, Photoshop doesn't understand that this picture has depth and perspective, and so the clone steps are far too large, as you can see there. So what we're going to do is tell Photoshop about the perspective in the picture, and to do that we're going to use the marvelous Vanishing Point filter. Now, before I clone using Vanishing Point, I'm just going to go to the Layers panel here and click to create a new transparent layer, because you can then clone onto the transparent layer and then fine-tune it with the eraser or layer masks later on, just to tidy things up. Once we've got our new layer, we can pop up to Filter and we can choose the Vanishing Point filter from here, and up pops a new window showing us the photograph that we're working on. Now, to tell Photoshop about the perspective in the picture, we're going to use this tool here, which is the Create Plane tool, and you can summon that by pressing C. And all you do to create a plane is to place points on the picture. So I'm going to go from this step here, click, and then up to the top step like so, click again, and then one more click here just at the bottom of this rail, and then another click round about here to finish off my grid. So there's our first grid, and we can click up here and change the grid size. Just drag that down a little bit to create a little bit more detail in the grid, like so. And once you've drawn your initial grid, you can then extend it by grabbing these little control handles. Let's drag that down like so. Let's extend this one up a little bit so we can extend our steps up into the distance, and there's the beginning of our perspective grid. So this grid or plane defines the perspective of the stairs, but we also have some perpendicular shapes as well with these rails. So what we need to do is extend the grid upwards to then clone to help these extend into the distance as well. And to do that, I'm going to hold down the Command key and drag up like so, and that extends these up into the air to create a rail like so. We can do the same with this one as well. Click here, hold down the Command key, drag that up until we've got it about the right height for the rail, and then we can also Command click again and drag to create another grid for the rail. So we've got three separate planes here now for the rail, the sides, and the steps as well. And up here as well, we can also extend this out slightly to create another plane for that rail going along there like so. So in some ways, we're almost creating a 3D model of the perspective in our picture, just to help Photoshop understand the depth and the angle, etc. of the various surfaces. The next thing to do is to pop up to this little mini control panel here, and there you have a clone stamp tool that's going to understand these planes here and clone in perspective. And you can change its hardness, its diameter, its opacity, and we'll kick off by keeping it aligned so the distance between the sampled area and the area that you're going to spray it into, the destination area, remains the same even when you stop spraying and then start spraying again. Press Command or Control Plus to zoom in for a closer look and move the cursor to a distinctive area such as this little bit of stair here. You can see there's a little bit of shadow. Alt click to sample that, and then as we move up to the top we can then find a similar area there, and if I click and spray now, it should extend that bit of shadow upwards, and as we go to the top you can see it's also scaling it down into the distance. I can do the same with the steps as well, so we're clicking and spraying over these areas here. If I use a right square bracket, I can get a larger brush tip, a larger preview appears at the top there, and that helps us cover the ground a little bit more quickly. I'm not going to go too far to the left there because I don't want to start cloning the girl into these areas at the top. So once you've started cloning and it seems to be working quite well, let's go right up to the end of our plane like so. There we go, that's probably enough to start with. Then what I'm going to do is go to this side. I'm going to go to this rail here, alt click to sample that, and then go to the similar looking rail like so, click and spray, and continue to extend up like so. Don't worry if it looks a little bit messy here, we can tidy these up later on this other plane. So that should extend the shadow and the steps up to near the top like so. We can then go into a section like this. I'm going to Control Plus to zoom in more closely, spacebar, and hold that down to get the hand tool. And now I'm going to press the left square bracket for a smaller tip. Now what we're going to do here is sample a little bit of this railing. See that little dot there? And then if I go up to here, it's scaling the cursor down. You can see there the preview scaling down. I want to try and get that little metal wire aligned. Something like this should do the trick. And then if we click and spray, we can extend the wires and the cables into the distance, like so. I'm going to alt click on this one now to sample that, go up to this one here, click and spray to continue pushing these off into the distance. And I can also go up to the top here as well and just extend that top rail along that plane. Here's a good tip to do with aligned or unaligned. Let me just untick this, and then we can alt click to sample an area such as this bit here, move over to a new location and click and spray like so. And when I let go, it doesn't stay aligned, it's actually staying put where the original sample was. So we can now go to another part up here and then click and spray, and it's taking that same sampled area and placing it into the distance. And again, I can go and unclick and then move into the top here and spray once more, and it's taking the same sampled area. So that's a good way of taking one area and then placing it into multiple parts of the picture. And remember, we've got other planes as well, such as this one up here. So what we can do is just alt click to sample a detail like so, and move it up, and it's scaling down automatically, so we can then spray and extend that into the distance. And you can keep cloning and spraying until you've tidied things up a little bit more effectively. But the nice thing is, if we click OK now, you can see our clone pixels have appeared like so. And because they're on a transparent layer, we can turn them on and off. We can also click here to add a layer mask. And if I Control plus or Command plus to zoom in, I can then grab the brush tool by pressing B or clicking here to select it. And if we then make sure we've got a black foreground color by clicking here, we can spray on the mask. I'm just going to use a larger tip. And if I hold the Shift key down and click here and then click here to draw a straight line, you can see we're tidying up the mask at the top. We can Control plus to zoom in a little bit more. And anytime I spray black on the mask, I can make parts of this layer transparent. So if you've got details here that are a bit messy, click here, hold the Shift key down to draw a straight line, and again, and you can start to erase details that are problematic. So that's how I'm going to tidy up the rough and ready edges, such as these bits here. There's a bit of step there I don't want, so I'm going to click to delete it, go up, and so on. And that's just a great way of tidying things up. So you see the theory there about using masks to tidy up your cloned layer. If we go back to the layer like so, we can still go back to Filter and go back to Vanishing Point, because the grid is still visible and active, and we can then continue using the clone stamp to add more details to our planes by alt-clicking and spraying. And as soon as you make a change, you can click OK again and go back to your layered Photoshop document. So I've still got some tidying up to do, but I just want to show you a quick tip on getting rid of unwanted objects, such as this lamppost here. Click to create a new transparent layer, place that on the top of the layer stack, and then grab this little beauty, the Spot Healing Brush tool. But make sure that you use Content Aware and tick Sample All Layers. Let's just zoom in for a closer look. And what we can do now is just make sure the brush tip's large enough. You can use the right square bracket for a larger tip, or the left for a smaller one, and just click and spray over the unwanted object. I don't want to go too far down to the rail, but something like that should do the trick. Let go, and then it's looking at the details there, and it's getting rid of things and replacing them with appropriate sky pixels. It's not done a terribly good job with the rail there, but all we can do is press E for the eraser, and then just click and spray to get rid of it from that particular part of the layer. Then go back to the Spot Healing Brush tool and maybe go in for a closer look, and then be a little bit more accurate with a smaller tip. So I'm just going to spray over the remaining bit of the lamppost, and that should work nicely, as you can see there. Z for the zoom tool, right click and choose Fit on Screen. And we can pop back to the cloned layer again and pop back to Vanishing Point, and you can even extend the plane by clicking on this little white control handle and just drag them further up into the sky if you want to create an even higher step. I'm just going to cancel that for the moment and show you one I prepared earlier. You can see I've gone much further up there. I've tidied things up using layer masks just to get rid of any bits that were showing up through the wire there that we didn't want to see. And there we have a slightly more fantastical looking scene, thanks to the addition of this computer generated moon that I've added and a bit of a vignette, and I've tweaked the colors creatively. I'm not going to go into detail about how I did those things, because I just want to show you how we use Vanishing Point to clone in perspective, and then you can start to apply that to your own photographs in creative ways.